I remember the riots in 1968 and the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. As a student at Covington Holmes High during 1970, I recall a protest led by young student activist Robin Williams. Frustrations about the lack of black teachers, studies, and acknowledgement of the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday were all concerns. Change as many times must be forced through economic sanctions. Their strategy was to cause a disruption to the average daily attendance funds for the school allocation. Every day missed caused financial consequences for the school district. Covington schools now embrace and celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
No justice, no peace. Take a stand, together we are one. No justice, no peace.
How are you doing today, Robbie?
Well, Pam, I'm fine. But first, I want to say thank you for doing this interview on me, and thank you for inviting me back to the old homestead.
All right. Well, you are very welcome.
Thank you.
We go too far back to not do anything like that. And, I am totally delighted to be able to interview you for this particular series for the Rural Urban Exchange. And it's called Rural Urban Solidarity and Resiliency.
Okay.
And it's all about some of the events that happened when there was some protests going on, the Black Lives Matter with the George Floyd murder and the Breonna Taylor. And I know the way that you are active in the community, you've done a lot of things for many, many years. And today I want you to share some of those stories with us.
Okay.
But first of all, what I'd like to do is to let people know a little bit more about who Robbie Williams is. So could you tell us about yourself?
I'll be happy to. My name is Robbie Williams. I'm born and raised in Covington, Kentucky, 68 years. In July, it would be 69. Thank God. Like I said, born out here at St. Elizabeth Hospital, where most of us were. Attended William Grant. I attended Lincoln Grant, was not given the privilege or the honor to attend William Grant because by that time, segregation had come about and we had to go to different schools. Attended, after graduating Holmes High School in 1972, I attended Kentucky State University and got a Bachelor's of Arts degree in elementary education. So now, worked here, there, had children, and that's just about it. Simple.
Well, that's a lot.
But I love Covington, no matter what, good or bad. This is a good place to raise your children. I don't think our parents did bad, being raised here, and we had a close knit. This is when you had a village, and all parents was your mother, all fathers was your fathers, and half of them was not Miss so and so. They was Aunt so and so, Uncle so and so, and none of us had blood line. But we had a community line, and that sometimes meant more than your relatives. So
That's right. And you know what? It's very interesting that you said you have your degree in education. You're a graduate of Covington Holmes?
Yes.
Correct. And there was
1972. This is our 50, y'all.
All right. Hey, great and glad to be celebrating 50.
Yes, amen.
I had mine last year.
Yeah.
And that was quite an eye-opening experience to be able to go to your 50th reunion.
It's a blessing too. And we got to learn how to start counting them.
Yes, we do.
We got to learn how to start counting our blessings because we didn't get here all by ourselves.
No,
we had help from the parents, the grandparents, grandmother, but you got to give honor to God no matter what you do in your life, no matter first and foremost, you got to give him the blessing and the honor. And so I do appreciate that.
That is right. And what I was going to say is it's so ironic that you decided to go on into education and coming out of Holmes High School too. There was a time when there was a disturbance at Holmes. Some things happened and some of the black students there didn't quite agree with some of the things that happened there. And I believe that was around 1969 or 1970. I'm trying to get my years correct.
Okay, all right.
But there was a protest and there was a walkout. And I know that you, lady, you with the way that you're concerned about things, you were very active in what happened then. Could you share with us something about what went on with Holmes High School?
What went on with Holmes High School is just when I mentioned how I had to leave Lincoln Grant to go, and my first choice was not Holmes. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna give a shout out to John G. Carlisle. That's where I went first. I felt like those people over there could, there was just about on the same basis as some of our low-class blacks, just like you had low-class whites. And so I went there first because I felt, I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't want to go to Holmes because we weren't wanted. And I was taught to never go nowhere where you're not wanted. But as a child, you didn't have a choice. I had to go to school. So you're speaking of, I attended Holmes High School in 1970. Once I got in the 10th grade, I had nowhere else to go. Holmes was the only public high school in Covington.
That's right.
All right. So what I'm going to tell you, there are some good things and there's some bad things. But I guess I'm going to go with the bad first. Okay.
That's okay.
What I mean by that is I finally got there in 1970. Okay. And that was the time between 69 and 70 where we were having, after King, got killed, we were having more sit-ins, walkouts, riots, and whatever we had to do to be known to the public. We are human beings. We are people. We're just as really equal as you, whether you want to believe that or not. If you get into the Bible, like I asked you to put in first and foremost, if you do that, you would have no problem with understanding that we are all equal. Would be no problem at all, but to each his own. So back to 70. What came about is the treatment of Black people. I got to say Black people because at that point in time, you didn't have a lot of people of color. You didn't have the Asians. You didn't have the Hispanics. You didn't have what you have here now, Africans and all that. I think we might have had one African, but other than that, it was just Black people. So the treatment that we received was not welcoming. We already knew we weren't welcome, but one thing I learned in education, there's always going to be that child that you just, if I only could, but you can't. And it might be that child where, he's the problem one, but you cannot let the other children know this one right here I don't care too much about. And if you are anybody with a heart, mind, and soul, and anybody that loves your job with dealing with children, you got to still show that child some love because maybe that's what that child would need. You never know.
That's right.
So being mean and evil to people, and especially children, is sad and sickening. Okay, but back again, here's what happened. When we came up, we had community centers. Hallelujah. Thank God. Okay, we did. We had community centers. And at that point in time, there were two. There was the Northern Kentucky Community Center. And then Richard Hunter had a community center, which at this point in time, at the 50-some years, I can't even remember what it was called. But I tell you one thing about that center, well, which I worked for them both, but Richard Hunter had us working for him as young teenagers, get us started in how to get, although it was after school. Anyway, back between the 69 and 70s, but before 69, you were getting your parties in like Black Panther parties, all kind of the NAACP, but they've already been in existence, but they were coming strong then because we needed them. So what happened was Muslims were coming about in our community. Most of the guys I grew up with, 55% of their names are changed, because they went into a different religion and understanding. Well, that group, the Muslims, got us together, and back in the day, they would call them having a mass meeting. So we were to have, and we did have, a mass meeting at the center on 10th Street, because he had the center, the Our Savior Hall.
Oh, okay.
That's where we had two. We had it going on back in our day, we ain't had no money, but I loved our life, compared to what I'm seeing now. Anyway, so we had to make a change. So they got us together, these older guys. We knew them. They're like big brothers, and had a mass meeting and told us everything that we needed to do. Get your ducks in a row. So we had a certain time to start that. What we were going to do. We really didn't set out to have a riot. And they called it a riot because, we were getting a little rowdy. But here's what a lot of people don't know about that. We did not fight no students. See, that's what you don't know. We weren't fighting the students because the students, the blacks and white, and my class was the bombers, I'm sorry, of them all, 1972. We was bonded like this. Our color was gray. Our color was not black and white. We bonded together. So when we got there, we was start at 8 o'clock that morning. And quite naturally, everybody don't get to school at the same time. Although they should have gotten there because this was in the plan. So some of us that got to school on time, and if you all see a book, they have a book in Kenton County Library of the history of Covington, and in that book, you would see a picture of all these guys and this one girl, which is my sister, and it tells you, gives you a little brief story of this is when they had the riot, the walkout in 1970. Okay, but that group must have been second shift, and they were, because they weren't there when we were supposed to start at 8. I've always been disciplined. My mother, which her name was Pauline Williams, very active in Covington. Everybody called her Mom. She was a business owner, black business owner back then, but no matter what any of our parents had, whether it was better than the other ones, none of us were better than each other, no matter what. So anyway, back to that. So we started off with one of the football players was in the hallway, and his coach, I forget his name, but he was one of the worst ones of them all. We just knew he didn't like black people. And I'm so glad, something like that, I'm glad his name is a blank, okay? He was his assistant coach or something. So he was telling him, you need to go to the room. Well, we done circled around him, and the coach telling him, oh, Doug, you ain't got to go nowhere. You ain't got to move. You ain't got to move. So basically, that's what really got it started. And as they were coming to school, because by the time my sister and them got there, I was already in handcuffs. Okay, now we are children. Yeah, we were in handcuffs.
Wow.
I don't know, because we just wasn't, we didn't physically fight anybody, like I'm saying, because these were grown people and we were children. And so far as the students of Holmes High School, none of them were really involved because we didn't go. They weren't our target. It was some of the teachers. Uh-huh. Now, let me tell you, it was not all of the teachers. I had some good teachers of Caucasian descent that was real good to me. So it just escalated around there. So by the time everybody got there, we tearing up stuff and doing stuff, and so finally they called the police. Some of us was in handcuffs, and but we didn't go to jail. Okay. So they put us in hand, and I can't remember, did they have us lined up against the wall? I can't remember, but anyway, we did eventually make it to a couple of our classes. So we sitting in the main class of them all, which was music class, with the famous Bill Martin was our music teacher. All right. So me and my sister was, because most of us we were in choir. And so the aide came and said, I want to see, Jocelyn and Robbie Williams, Robin Williams. So we thinking, we walking down the hall like, we bad, we walking down the hall until we got to the office and seen our mother. And so, but one thing that time, and they put every black student out except a couple of families that didn't have nothing to do with it. But other than that, every black student in that school got kicked out. And it got, every black student got kicked out. They was calling your parents. They wasn't letting you go on your own. They was calling your parents to come and get you. Okay, so by the time we seen our mother and after we got through having that heart attack, because, back in our days, we rather see the police than our parents,
That's right, your mama
now you want to see the police and not the parents, So, but what happened was my mother owned a bar, a lounge, and she brought all the parents met downstairs because we lived up over the business, and then the children was upstairs while they went downstairs to discuss what was going to be done. And we really thought we were going to be in trouble, but when they came with some Frisch's Big Boys back in that day, we just knew we was on, so we up there. So anyway, make a long story short, we did accomplish something, but then again, there were some students that got penalized and could never enter into a Kentucky public school again. So most of the guys that I should have graduated with in 1972 had to go to school in Cincinnati. And that's what they had to, because, and a couple of girls, because some of them were never allowed back into a Kentucky public school again, so I don't know if that was known or not.
No.
Now, as quiet as it's kept, by the grace of, and let me tell you something, me and my sister was allowed to come back.
Okay.
And when I did come back, my teachers and my white students was happy. So it just wasn't, all like every white and every black. No, like I told you, the students, no. The teachers, they needed to be taught a lesson. And I'm sorry that we as kids had to step up to the plate and teach them a lesson. Did change get made? Maybe, a little bit. Nothing is 100%, but changes were made. And we just carried on. And I think my class, if I'm not mistaken, again, I'm just throwing 72 out there. We might have been one of the largest graduate. I think we had over maybe 400 something people to graduate. Wow. And that's a number you don't see no more.
No.
I didn't think my name, and my last name is Williams. I'm back there sweating bullets. I went to sleep a couple of times. No, but we did have a very large graduating class. And and the reunion is this year in 2022. I will not be able to attend because, I have other organizations I'm in. But if any of my classmates see this, I wish you well, I wish you luck, and I'll see you in another 50.
All right. That's true. I appreciate you sharing the truth about what happened from your perspective with that. And the fact that you and your sister both were in trouble, but were involved in it, but the trouble wasn't as bad as what you thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
There was protests where I recall parents didn't want us to go back to school. At least that's the piece that I understood. Right. There was with that walkout and that protest.
Right.
They didn't want us to go back to school, and it was a united force. It was solidarity at that time.
Yes.
Where everyone stood together, and you didn't go to school. Right. And the fact you didn't go to school, that hurt financially.
Well, that's where your boycotts would come in at, and in other words, you have to stick together. If you're fighting for a cause, but you see them marching all the time. I'm so sick of watching some of them because their history keep repeating itself, and there's nothing being done about them. And that's the killing of Black people. This is definitely gonna have to stop too. And it's just something that the world is turning a left eye or right eye or whatever kind of eye you want to turn to it. But what I feel that they don't realize is you still got to pay that cost. And this is what you don't realize that you're going to have to do. You're going to have to meet your maker. And while you're here on earth, you don't know this is on your hands, your children's hands, and all that blood. You don't know that blood passes. If you don't ask for forgiveness or whatever, or even stop doing what you're doing, number one, because what you're doing, you're doing it wrong. You just have a license to kill, and you're taking advantage of it. It is what it is. So this is where all these marches, and I know sometimes, people, I'm sick of them. I am too. But you got to let the people know that we know, and they also know what you're doing is wrong. Mm-hmm. So this is why I pray every day. You have to, especially people of color. You have to.
That's right.
And then there's some white too. It ain't always about of color. We just get mostly more abused than others, but they, people that are low income, that don't have nothing, and my God, when are they gonna help the homeless? I mean, we could be here all day with a whole bunch of stuff, but I don't even think that was even on the agenda.
Well, but, you can speak about that piece too.
Yeah, that's a sad thing too. You can build all these great big buildings, all these fabulous places for all the fabulous rich, and like I said, that's on your hands too. You think you're not, because what goes around comes around. There's somebody while you gone or while you laying sick one of yours is gonna be out there up under that bridge, and you're gonna wonder why can't nobody help them. You know.
Right. And then speaking of the bridge here for the audience today who may be watching this, the bridge we're talking about would be Suspension Bridge between Covington and Ohio, the 12th Street Bridge by the levee. Since we live close to this levee, we call it the 12th Street Bridge, but I think it's called the Daniel Beard.
Oh, is it?
Or there is a different name.
See, when you're born and raised here, we still say the old stuff, because that, you know.
Right.
Okay.
The names might change, but the game or whatever is still the same as what I hear you're saying. There hasn't been much difference in that at all.
No.
And you know, now that you are an adult, you're still active.
Oh, yes.
You're still expressing your voice about what's happening in Covington and the Covington Eastside in particular, the harm and the resiliency, because the resiliency is people, when things happen, besides solidly coming together to do something about it, even though it's the same old, perhaps where it's been happening. The resiliency piece of it is, you know, you have to keep doing something and be resilient about it, because if you don't, things may not change.
Right.
So, will you tell us about the Covington Black Lives Matter March? I believe you participated in that when it was here in Covington, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. That was done by, I call her my niece, Chris Brown.
Okay.
She, and you're going to hear her name dropped a whole lot here lately now, because she is running for state representative, but she got that up. And that was something good. And I mean, I think we went all the way to Erlanger. I mean, the march was long, and she had about 2 of them. But whatever or whoever, I mean, not just her, but anytime anybody, if it's got to do with for the good of the community, for the good of our people in the community, or whatever, you know, students, which we really need, they need help. You know, they're crying out, and only a few of us are trying to reach back. But we're gonna have to do more. We're gonna have to get more. We don't have the back like for the churches like we used to. Like I said, you know, there's just, I mean, we can go on and on here. So, yeah. So far as Black Lives Matter and the march.
Yes.
That's important too. You know, I know it's on the news and all that, but what can I say about it? It does bring people together to let other people know there are people in this world that don't like what's going on. You know, and no matter what, Black Lives Matter, yeah, they holler back, all lives matter. Yes, you're right. All lives does matter. But when you afflicting pain and suffering on people because God made us a certain color, that's the saddest thing. That's, you know, it's just, this is what I say you need to reach back in your book. Because I'm getting ready to tell you something that's really going to mess you up. When you reach into the Bible, you can read it from the beginning to the end. There's not one white person in the Bible. Not one. So think about it, my brother.
Well, thank you so much, Robbie, for sharing that piece with us. And I'm sure you're going to have some people who will look that up as a matter of fact.
Seriously, there's not. You're not going to find it. You know, but where did you come from? Who was the first people here? And they were of color. So, you know, y'all need to just stop it, is what I'm just saying. Just stop it, because what is chosen cannot be unchosen. Right. If God has chosen, not saying we are, but what most of them are trying to do, have been trying to do, is get rid of us. It's never, ever, ever going to happen. So stop it. The more you get rid of us, the more my Father comes and gets rid of yours with drugs. Like you thought that crack was going to wipe us out, but heroin is wiping you out. So think about it again, my brother.
All right, all right. I like the way that you tell the truth and put your perspective forward.
You have to. That's what it is. People need to stop sugarcoating. You know, we already know what's going on. People know what's going on. They're not stupid. No. And the way these babies are being born now, and I'm scared of them. You know, because I got a little 4-year-old, and she's saying literally and a whole lot of words, you know. So, no, people aren't stupid. They just turning a blind eye. But when you turn that blind eye, your blessings is gone. Just because you might got money in the bank. You got money in the bank because you made it because the system has made it possible for you to have that money in the bank. You're gonna get the best job, the best paycheck. But here's what I tell you: you better pray and hope you keep getting that same paycheck, because I'm gonna tell you one thing: we know how to live without no money.
All right.
We don't need no money, honey. Honey, please. Okay, we ain't even gonna go there. That's just the school teacher coming out in me. Go ahead.
All right. Well, tell the truth. That's all I can say. Tell the truth about it. Economics. We are some of the disenfranchised, and that's what they talk about. We're disenfranchised people who have learned how to make it on almost nothing.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the truth.
We watched our parents.
That's right.
We watched our parents. My mother had 2 jobs, 3 jobs.
Yes.
And most of them work themselves to death. Most of them work up until the day they retire, then they die.
Yes.
But they got their just reward because they have a mansion in the sky and they didn't pay not 1 penny for it.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for that. And that's the resiliency piece too that stays with that. Now, will you share with us, you are a member of the Covington Elks. Now, there's so many different titles and things that go with Covington Elks. Can you share with us about your role and actually, why did you become a Covington Elk?
Oh, girl. As a matter of fact, I never wanted to be an elk because we grew up. Now, don't get me wrong. They did what they did, and they did a lot in the community when we were coming up too. But when you come up and you look at some and say, "Oh, I ain't gonna never join no else," because I lived right across the street from them, so we knew everything. But they did take us places like New Orleans, a place that I'd never been before I graduated for the drill team. But the reason why I joined the Elks after all them years being around them, I joined in 2005. So I've only been a member 17 years.
Oh, that's a long time.
Well, there's some in their 50 and 60.
Oh,
okay. Oh, yeah. So what it was, I got tired of doing some of the things I was doing. I worked every day. But, back in that time, we just sitting around, we drinking wine, and I got tired. We weren't doing anything. We weren't going anywhere. And I've always been a woman on the go. My mother was like that. This is one reason why I'm active. My mother was very active in the community. So I get it honestly. I watched her. And I just got tired. And I told a couple of them, I said, "Come on, y'all, let's go, join the Elks." And they said, "The Elks? We don't want to join no Elks, though." But it was about 7 or 8 of us that did join. But it's 2 of us from that group in 2005 that is still there. Wow. And the reason why I stayed there is because they do good things in the community. I am assistant director or the director of the youth department. I have been in their local education directors for 17 years. In other words, that's a department that I go out and reach out for children, grades 11th and 12th, to do an oratorical, and they have a chance to get up to is it $10,000? But there's some steps you have to take. But we try to reach out to kids to do that. I'm also very active in the Southern District. When I say Southern District, I mean from Covington to Cincinnati. I'm their civil liberties director, so I'm very heavily in civil liberties. And this week of April the 29th and 30th, 2022, we have our Shrine Weekend, which I am the state directress of Ohio. Well, I'm saying Ohio State because we got a little history here, and I ain't got time to go into it, but Covington is the only lodge in Kentucky that is with Ohio, because the founder, B.F. Howard, which this weekend, we are having this Shrine Weekend, and I went to the city of Covington and talked to Ron Washington about getting a street named after him. Now, he does already have a park in between 11th and Greenup and 11th and Scott. We used to call it the 8 Yard, but it's really now, it's been this for years, it's called the B.F. Howard Park. This is where the city has approved that the street will be named after B.F. Howard, and that will be done on April the 30th, 2022 at 10 a.m., ribbon cutting. And then, but that's one of the reasons why, and I also joined it because I can use them as a tool to help my people, my community, and I also network with, I am a newly daughter of ISIS, which are the Shriners. I am on the executive committee of the NAACP. So whatever else I can do to help my community, or whatever else I can get into, whatever I can get into to help my people or my community. I mean, when I say my people, I'm not just talking about no black people. I'm talking about all people.
Your community.
Yeah, this is my whole community. And this is what I want to do. My heart's always been like that. I used to be a caseworker at the state of Kentucky. That wasn't a pleasure place to work, I hate to say it, but the people were fabulous, my clients, not the people inside the job. And to this day, and I left there in 2005, and to this day, I see people that I used to have, and Miss Williams, we missed, because my goal was to help these people. Because I had been on that same side they was on me at my desk. I've been there before too. So that means because now I'm on the other side, or am I better than you? Not no way, shape, form, or fashion. What I am is your key to get what you need. And that's what I did. I got them what they need. I didn't hold off on it. I didn't stall off on it. And especially if they had some babies, and don't let them have no 6 babies. I'm gonna push heaven and earth to get it done. So this is the way I was raised. This is, I'm glad my heart is like that.
Yes.
I want to sometimes get angry enough to have hatred, but I wasn't raised that way. And I know having hatred in my heart is taking it, because I'm 69 in a minute. And I thank God, and I feel like the more you hate somebody or hate something, do you realize it takes a lot of energy out of you? And This is why I have y'all sick now, because you're so busy, got all this built up in you that hurts you, because you surely ain't hurting me. You can see right now you are not hurting me, So I don't know. I just wish we all someday, I pray, can just be on one accord.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us too. Now, will you also share about B.F. Howard? You told us about the celebration and what all's going on, but who is B.F. Howard?
Okay, let me tell y'all something. That's another story, and it should be a little mini series.
Well, maybe you can do it.
It came about in the late 18s, I can't think, 1880 something. But anyway, B.F. Howard was not alone. The main man, his last name was Riggs. He was a porter. Back then, that's what, if you worked on a train, that's where they put the black people.
Right.
Now, B.F. Howard was not on it, but what happened, some kind of way, Riggs got a hold of, and this is in our proclamation. We will be having, the city has given us one. Riggs got a hold of the White Elks bylaws, or however you set up whatever, right? So some kind of way, they found out after he got off work and everything that he had it, right? So here's what they told him. This is deep, y'all. They told, the railroad told him, we won't kill you if you bring it back. Oh, they wanted to kill him. This is how deep this gets.
Wow.
We will not kill you if you bring it back. But no way he wasn't going to bring that back, because he knew they was going to kill him. So what he did, he passed it off to B.F. Howard. Now here's where B.F. Howard comes in with Covington.
Okay.
B.F. Howard is not born and raised in Covington, but he is a Kentucky, but he came to live when he became a young man to live in Covington. So he lived here, B.F. Howard did. Riggs did not. Riggs is out of Kentucky too. All right, so here's what happened with Riggs. Once Riggs passed that off to B.F. Howard, Riggs had to go into hiding.
Oh.
Because they were looking for him. He had to change his name. They say he faked the death, but that we couldn't find that, because they had to make out like he no longer existed. Now, we couldn't find no history on did he fake a death, but he did have to change his identity, his name, and everything. And no one knew for years where he was buried, the real Riggs. I don't know the AKA name that he used yet. This is some more history. Riggs is deep too, but this is why B.F. Howard is getting the recognition, because he lived here in Covington. And the reason why the first Elks, once Riggs went on in hiding, B.F. Hart now, they had to get it patent. They had to change some things. What they changed, we are called the IBPOE of the world.
Okay.
The Improved Benevolent Protective Order of Elks of the World. That was what we had to change. We had to change them letters because it could not be the same as what the white documents were. So we had to change that. So that's what we changed, the letters. Once they got that patent and everything, then they would try to get an Elks here in Covington.
Okay.
This would have been, but they could not because they did not allow Black people in Kentucky to have any kind of organization like that. No fraternal, nothing like that. They didn't allow that. I think in colleges they did, but not just something like the Elks. You know, the Elks, the Mooses, and the Shriners and all them. Okay, but I think your fraternities and them, they started, I think, before them, but that was in a college, so they were incorporated.
Okay.
So once Kentucky turned down BFR and said, no, you're not allowed to organize no Black organizations here. So that's when he moved to Cincinnati. And your first lodge is in Cincinnati. It's Alpha Lodge number 1. So this is how that, but that's, like I said, that's because the young lady in the city that was doing the proclamation, she was so interested in it. She was digging up history that we didn't even know, you know, because it's a very interesting story. I would like to know more about it. So maybe down the line, you and I can do some research and maybe we can come together again and share it with the public.
Definitely. That sounds like something very interesting that I would like to do. And I would like to join you with it. As a matter of fact.
Yeah, it's just an interesting story. I didn't know the man, but I think Riggs is now, B.F. Howard is buried over at Linden Grove.
Okay.
So, and after we have the ribbon cutting Saturday, we will have lunch. Then at 1 o'clock, we will do a church service, which would be at Ninth Street Baptist Church this year. We try to go to different churches in Covington because that way when they do the collection, we do look out for the churches and whatever. And the speaker will be the Commissioner Ron Washington, due to the fact that if it wasn't for Ron Washington, I don't think he went in there to speak for us about the B.F. Hart, and that man had no clue who he even was. So when I first went to Ron Washington, but I gave him some history. I'm sure he done his own. Whatever he said to them, they approved the street. So hats off to Commissioner Ron Washington for that.
All right. Well, that is great. And need to give Ron his props too, because first time running for election for city, not council, but city commission seat. We have commissions here in Covington. He was the #1 vote getter. And by being that, he is also the vice mayor.
Oh, okay.
So it's the first time we have an African-American as male as the vice mayor. Michelle Williams was the vice mayor prior to that. But at this time, we have 2 African-Americans on the city commission. And that's historic itself. You know, and she's been there, I think she's been there like 4 times that she's served.
Okay,
I may not have that number correct, but that itself is very, very ironic. Now, I appreciate you sharing the story about B.F. Howard. What else I would like to know is for you to just share some of your thoughts, if you don't mind, about what are some of the things that you hope will happen for the future. You've talked about a lot of things that's going on. You talked about the solidarity of people coming together. You talked about the resiliency, about people continuing to go after the wrongs to try to make those right as much as they can. Can you just share what some of your thoughts are as far as what you hope changes or transformations will be for the future?
Well, one hope for the future, and I need this to be really soon. Our children are getting lost more and more every day. We need some place for these children to go. We need some resources for help for some of these children. We need to come together with different organizations. Like, for instance, they know that the children know about the Elks because we do things with them and we give out Easter baskets and stuff like that. So, of course, they know about the Elks. but some of them have no clue. They need to start learning about the NAACP. If this is not being taught, things that are not being taught in the schools, we can teach them ourselves. If we have community centers, we can have little Black history classes along with the history classes. Because because like I say, for years I took history and knew about the Mayflower, the Pinto, and all of them. And not one teacher told me there was Africans on there, one of them ships. I had to wait till I got.
Me either.
See, that's sad. And something like community centers. We need some. Randolph Park. Our children would like to use the park too. We need to get some softball teams up, get some volleyball teams up. I've been active in sports all my life. I might not can do what I could do back then, but hey, I'm all for it. We went swimming. We got a playground down there. We need to start bringing back some swimming classes for just things like that, and have little one-on-ones maybe ever so often with the police department. People like that. And like I said, get them into the NAACP. They got youth things for the NAACP. But one thing I will say about the city of Covington, they're going to do they made Juneteenth a holiday. And I give hats off to them for that. That's one step that they're trying to do. They took out the President's Day and put in Juneteenth. Yeah. So we're going to try to do something. This is the first year that they will be on a holiday on that. And they want to do something. And I want to work with them, with the Elks and the NAACP and whoever else. Other community. I think I'm getting with maybe your brother, my sister, and Juggy. They all talk. We're trying to block off their little area. I think I heard on the radio where St. Elizabeth, I forget the African's name, but he's going to do something. But that's one step. But we do need some resources. We know there's some money out there, and y'all need to put that money to good use this time. Come on, people. You still not, I don't know what to say about it. I'm speechless because I don't know, but I'm trying. I'm looking for some grant writers, somebody that can write somebody. If we get a center, we're going to need some grant money. We're going to need some volunteers or some of you ones that have gone on and made big. I mean, black and white. We ain't just looking for no specific. And that's what we need to stop doing. We need to stop specifying, just because we're going to be on the east side with the black kids and the west side with the white kids. We're going to have the white lawyers and the black. No, we want to come together because they are kids too, So I don't know, but that's what we need to do. We need to start coming together and stop thinking bad of each other because I know deep down in our heart, you got to have some kind of soul somewhere, some kind of conscience. Come on. I mean, some people don't, but those that don't, then there's mental hospitals for them. But anyway, because in your heart, I do believe a lot of people have good in their heart. If you just ask for it and know that you are sincere and that we are sincere, I do believe people will come out and reach out and help. And we're asking for help, especially with these children. That's my main thing, because I want at least let them live long as we have. Half of these kids ain't even making it till 20. I mean, and it's sad, and it ain't drugs killing our kids, it's guns killing our kids, and if it ain't the police shooting them, it's them shooting themselves. So this is something else they need. They need somebody, strong men wearing suits every day. Come on, let's step up to the plate, my brother and sister, and let's take them by the hand, white and black, and show them there's a better life out here than what you're doing. Because if it wasn't for the type of parents we had, and I thank God every day, they made sure. My mother put the fear of God in me and my sister. I'm telling you, when I was grown, we said, Mom, we used to be scared of you. Not scared when she beat us or nothing, but we might got a little licking here or there too. And you didn't want it, so you wouldn't do it. That's all But they do need us. And there's people out there that have resources and education and businesses that can help us,
All right. Well, thank you so much. Actually, while we were talking, as a part of your interview, I did get someone, that was my phone, if you heard it in this or not, beeped in, and they were actually asking me something about Juneteenth. So I will be sure to give you that information because they do want to collaborate.
Oh, yes.
So, things come all different kinds of ways when people know different people, and they'll say, do you know? And I'm a person who will refer to. If I know who has the information, has it, I will refer. And I know you
Right.
do the same
Yes,
thing too.
yes.
But I will have to say that at some point too, I feel like you get very tired. I'm a year older than you. And maybe that year wore me out a little bit more. I have no idea. But I can share with you at least the fact that, I'm proud of you.
Thank you,
Your
Pam.
enthusiasm in that regard to keep on going. You make me tired when I listen
I
to
know.
what all you're doing and what you're still going to be doing. And I don't want you to burn out.
Yeah.
I want you to have that energy. Okay.
Okay.
So I do want to thank you again for taking the
And
time
thank
to
you for
share
having
this
me.
and this
And thank
interview.
you for welcoming me back to the old homestead. And when y'all have barbecue, call me.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Pam.
All right. Take care, Robbie.